they can hear it up the river.
I'm sure my voice carried across, yeah.
And you think your voice carried across the river as well?
Yeah.
Because you're saying it loud enough.
I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know.
And does marijuana affect you differently than it affects Jake, Hank, or Steven?
I would say marijuana relaxes me.
My question was, does marijuana affect you differently than it affects those other three?
I don't
Best of your
recall.
knowledge.
I don't recall what they said, so I was explaining it.
Okay. Do you recall their testimony? I think when each one of them said it probably makes them louder and more boisterous.
I recall some of them saying, yeah.
And would you agree that that affects you in a similar manner?
Depending on my mood at the time.
And you're in a good mood that day.
I suppose, yeah.
Beautiful day outside. You testify to that. Got your shirt off, got your shades on. You're in a good mood.
I wouldn't argue with that.
Watching some video that you think is funny.
Yeah.
Fishing, what you love to do.
Yes, sir.
And you're being loud and obnoxious. Is that fair?
I may have been.
Okay. And now you hear something coming back across from the other side of the river. Correct?
Yes.
And that voice says, you think that's funny, faggots. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Now we've heard other testimony that did include from Hank Mossberg, or excuse me, Jake Mossberg, Hank Michaels, and Stephen Phillips. We've heard some variations of that that did include the word faggots. Is that fair?
Yeah.
But you're confident as you sit here today that that term was used?
Yes. I was the one involved in the conversation, not them.
And Stephen Phillips is sitting right next to you, correct?
Yeah.
All right. And he'd have a pretty good view, not only view, but an earshot of what you're saying.
I suppose he would, yeah.
And now, knowing again that we've seen your Twitter records and your Facebook records and your phone records, and we've also heard from Stephen, Hank, and Jacob, is it fair to say that you four throw around the term homos, faggots, and gays on a regular basis?
Yeah, I guess I would, yeah.
It's a daily occurrence with you guys on your social media, isn't it?
Maybe.
Okay. And the language that we've been hearing in terms of, for lack of a better term, you guys throw that word out there constantly, correct?
Fuck?
Yeah.
Sometimes, yes.
And as Mr. Mossberg says, he just uses it in regular conversation. Fair?
He probably does, yeah.
Okay. And so again, when you guys get together, throwing out this profanity is conversation back and forth between the four of you. Is that correct?
Just repeat that.
Yeah. Let me withdraw that. Let me try that again. So when the four of you are together, throwing out the term fuck, throwing out swear words, throwing out the words gays, homos, faggots, that's just normal conversation for the four of you. Fair?
Not really, no.
Not really, but sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
And at least on social media, it appears to be almost daily occurrence.
I couldn't tell you.
Now, this, you think your funny statement is yelled back, and you respond to that, right?
Yeah.
You say, yeah.
I didn't say that.
So Stephen Phillips would be wrong?
I don't recall him saying that either.
Okay. Well, how'd you respond back?
I remember I said, what?
Not, what the fuck? Not, yes? Nothing like that, just what?
Said what?
And then, from that, it's your statement that, what's the next thing that said?
I can't remember what I said, or what he said next.
Okay, but there's more conversation coming back and forth?
There was some more, yes.
Okay. More, is there insults being thrown back and forth? You just don't remember?
I remember some of it.
Okay, and is it volleying back and forth? You know what I mean by volleying, like in tennis, where it's going back and forth between the two of you?
I wasn't throwing insults that way, no.
You were just responding?
Yeah.
How were you responding?
I said, what? I said, what did I do? I said, but I'm not tired yet.
Okay, so let's go back to that. So
Which one?
I'm not tired yet.
Okay.
That was in response to you claim from something that was said across the river. Is that correct?
Yeah, he said he said that he was gonna come over and put me to sleep.
Okay. And you testified when you were asked that at that point you got scared.
I did. I got a little nervous about why he had said that, yeah.
Okay. And you're so scared and you're so nervous that you come back with a comment like, I ain't even tired yet. Is that what you're telling us? You're so scared and so nervous that you come back with what you got to acknowledge is what Hank Mossberg calls a smart-ass comment. Correct?
I suppose, yeah.
You said you were nervous and afraid to the point of you thought about packing up and leaving, right?
It crossed my mind, but
And didn't you say that you had a conversation with any of the other three at that time about that?
it wasn't really a conversation. It was kind of like what just happened.
You never have a conversation with Mr. Mossberg, Mr. Michaels, or Mr. Phillips about, hey, I'm scared. Let's pack up and get the heck out of here.
I can't say I did, no.
And you fished for at least another hour. Is that fair?
Yes.
You weren't scared enough to get out of there.
No.
Weren't scared enough to call 911 at that point.
No.
Now you say that as you're done, as fishing's wrapping up, or maybe it's just as it's getting dark, you go get your lantern. Is that correct?
About sunset, we got our lanterns.
And then, do you still? Probably a really dumb question, but do you still have your lanterns as you're packing up? Correct?
Well, obviously, yes.
Okay. Describe what you mean by lantern.
Well, it was like a little Coleman lantern.
One that you carry by the handle?
I believe there was a handle like kind of built into it.
Okay. Is it the propane powered or is it powered by liquid? Is it a battery?
It
What
was
is
a
it?
lithium.
Lithium. Okay. So it's a battery operated, but it looks like a lantern.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not very strong though.
Right. But it kind of looks like got the look of like the old Coleman lanterns, but it's a flashlight. Is that fair?
No, it's a lantern.
But powered by a lithium battery.
Yeah.
Okay. And can you show me or describe one or the other how big that lantern is?
Probably about that tall.
Give me a guess how many inches you've got your hand off the table there.
I am not good with measurements, really. I mean, it was probably...
Think of a ruler as being 12 inches?
I'd have to say it was about 6 or 7 inches.
6 or 7 inches high, and then how wide? I mean,
3.
okay. So it's just a little kind of lantern.
Yeah, I just set it on its side just in order to illuminate my pole.
And you're packing up to leave. You and Stephen make 2 trips back down to check to make sure all your stuff's gotten, correct?
Yeah.
And how did you feel as you were leaving, you were asked? You remember that question?
No, I'm not sure if I do.
Okay. Well, as you're leaving, you turn around and yell across the river, those pussies didn't even show up. Fair?
I didn't say that, no.
What did you say?
I said pussies.
Okay. You yelled that across the river.
Yeah.
Okay. Directed it at those guys across the river.
Yeah.
Okay. And Stephen says, he got the last word, right?
I don't remember him saying that.
Do you disagree with what he testified to in regard to what was said across the river?
He testified to what he testified to. I'm just saying I don't remember it.
Okay, and he was standing right next to you when you said this, right?
Yeah, he was.
Because it's, again, you two guys that are kind of by each other and hanging around each other, correct?
Yeah.
So he would have been in direct earshot with what you had said back across the river.
I suppose so, yeah.
So you direct this pussies back across the river. You obviously had been thinking about the guys across the river, correct?
Well, Stevie had brought it up, so I don't know.
How did Stevie bring it up?
Stevie said something about them not showing up.
And your response to that is to yell back across, pussies.
We were kind of joking, but yeah.
What's pussy mean to you?
I don't know.
Come on,
Like,
Mr. Acre-Kendall. When you call somebody a pussy, it means something, right?
I don't know.
Wimp, weakling.
I suppose those are good words.
Okay.
Yes.
You're a pussy, you didn't even show up to fight. You're a pussy, you didn't even show up here, correct?
What are you asking?
I'm asking, when you yell pussies across the river, it was in reference to them not coming over.
I guess.
So you didn't, as you testified, think you were yelling that to no one. You were directing it at the two guys across the river.
Well, obviously they had been there, yes. But I was not sure if they were still there.
You weren't sure?
I didn't think they were. As I said, I thought I saw their lanterns go around and move, but it could have been a car, it could have been lights on the other side, I'm not sure.
And when you say that, when you yell that, two individuals appear, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And we've heard different versions of what was said when they appear, correct?
Everyone has their own perceptions of what had happened, yeah.
Jacob Mossberg says, "We're right here, son." Do you remember them saying that?
I can't say that I remember that part, no.
Where was Jacob Mossberg when you yelled pussies across the river?
The last time I saw him, he was behind his truck.
How far away was that from when you yelled that? From where you yelled that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but let's see, he was about 10 feet. I was in front of the car, he was in the back of his car, so.
And then, when they appear, you look at them and say, "What the fuck?"
No.
No? When do you say "what the fuck" to them?
When I was pushed down after that.
It was after that that you
Yeah.
said "what the fuck." Okay.
Because they had pushed me down, and I was kind of like, what the fuck? Because I was thrown to the ground.
Okay. So when they show up, you say something, correct?
I had said I wasn't even talking to you, yeah.
Okay. And is that when somebody says, "So you're the one who's talking shit"?
I said that after.
Can my
Yes, I said that after.
So after you're allegedly pushed down? I'm curious. Let me back you up. I'm asking the question here. When these two gentlemen appear, what do you say?
Well, prior to them showing up, I had said pussies.
No, I'm not. Yep. And then they appear.
Yes, and then they said, who are you calling pussies? And then they said, so you're the one who's talking shit.
Okay. So you don't say anything to them when you first see them?
Not directly, no.
And then you claim that somebody tosses you to the ground.
Someone did, yeah.
Okay. And you've heard Mr. Leckman's testimony.
Yes.
Okay. And he says, "I pushed you to the ground," meaning you.
Yeah.
You don't disagree with that, correct?
I wouldn't disagree or agree. I don't know who did it.
You heard Stephen Phillips indicate that it was Mr. Leckman who pushed you down.
Yes?
Okay. Stephen Phillips is standing right next to you when this happens, correct?
Yeah.
Stephen Phillips would have absolutely no reason to lie about that, correct?
Can't say that he would know.
Now, there's a push. Do you push back?
No.
No. I think there's been some testimony that you crouched down low onto one knee, but is it your statement now that you went down on all fours?
Yeah.
Okay. And we saw some photographs of your skinned up right and left knee. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And some couple what you I think called blood blisters on a hand. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And those are the injuries that you suffered as a result of that confrontation.
Yes.
No other physical injuries anywhere else.
No.
Did you go to the doctor?
No.
Go to the emergency room?
No.
Require any medical attention whatsoever?
No.
Need a Band-Aid?
I could have.
Didn't put one on.
Didn't have one.
So it was your statement that when asked what you were thinking was, oh crap, these guys showed up and are going to beat me up, correct?
Yeah.
And that's when you stand up and say, what the fuck? Correct?
Yeah.
And bam, you pop that knife open, correct?
Yeah.
And where's the knife?
In my pocket.
It's been in your pocket the whole time, is that correct?
Yeah.
Been in your pocket the time when you were arguing with these guys across the river?
No.
Wasn't in your pocket then?
No.
Where was it then?
On the table.
Okay, right next to you.
I don't know. Somewhere on the table.
On the table you're sitting on.
There was 2 tables.
Right? Is it on one table or is it on the other table?
I don't know.
All right. And again, this whole verbal confrontation that's going back and forth, Stephen Phillips is sitting right next to you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And at some point in time, you claim that somebody says, we'll be over there in 5 minutes.
That was said at the end by them, yeah.
Okay? And you say, see you then.
No, I don't recall that.
You heard Stephen Phillips say that?
Yeah.
Repeatedly, he testified as that, correct?
Yeah.
Both on the stand, and you heard about 2 separate interviews where he indicated repeatedly that he heard you say, see you then, correct?
Yeah.
Stephen Phillips, your best friend, you've known him forever.
Yeah.
You'd have no reason to lie about that.
No.
You pop up, you reach in your pocket, and you pull out that knife. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And it takes something to pop the blade on that knife as well, correct?
Yeah.
Requires you to do something, correct?
Yeah.
You don't just pull it out of a sheath. You don't just, it's not like a fillet knife, correct?
It was a pocket knife.
It's a pocket knife.
Yeah.
And how do you, I think a pocket knife, I think of something I got to open up like this and hold out there. What do you got to do to make that blade open?
Push a button.
Push a button, and you push that button, correct?
Yeah.
And smack, that blade opens and locks in place. Is that fair?
Just like any other pocket knife, I guess.
Well, I don't know what kind of pocket knives. I'm thinking Swiss Army knife when I think of a pocket knife. I think of other pocket knives that I got to manually open. You don't have to do that, correct?
I guess not.
You decide to push the button and pop that blade open, correct?
Yeah.
And you didn't decide to pull that knife out of your pocket and say, guys, I got a knife, without popping that blade open, correct?
No.
You didn't just show them the knife with the blade folded up, correct?
Correct.
You pop that blade open and say, I got a knife, don't fuck with me, correct?
I didn't say that.
Did you say, what the fuck?
Is what I said.
So when Stevie says, you said, I got a knife, don't fuck with me, he'd be wrong?
That is not what I remember, no.
But it's possible you said that?
No, I didn't.
And so when you push that button and that knife opens, you mean business.
What? What do you mean by that?
Well, again, you don't just show them the closed up knife. You put it in its most dangerous position, correct?
I suppose you could say that.
And at that point, when you do that, one of the guys says, what a pussy, bringing a knife to a fist fight. Is that correct?
Yeah.
He uses the same word that you had used across the river, correct?
Yeah.
And you don't know which one of them said that. Is that correct?
I can't tell for sure, no.
And again, you heard Mr. Leckman's testimony, correct?
Yeah.
He's embarrassed, but he acknowledges, I'm not only the one that pushes them, I'm the one that says you're a pussy for bringing a knife. Is that correct?
I couldn't tell you.
You don't remember him saying that?
I don't, no.
But you don't have any reason to indicate that he's not telling the truth when he acknowledges he called you a pussy.
No.
Now, that blade comes out, and Mr. Leckman and Mr. Kelly back up.
Yes, a little bit.
I think you said take a couple steps back.
Yeah.
Okay? But then, again, your testimony is they get angrier.
They did, yeah.
Because you opening up this knife escalates things, correct?
They did, yeah.
Okay? And you and Mr. Kelly, by your testimony, continue to go back and forth verbally.
Yeah.
He, according to you, he would say something like, you're a pussy, and you'd agree with him, correct?
I would say, yeah, I'm a pussy.
And you wouldn't say it like that, Mr. Acre-Kendall, correct?
I would say, yeah, I'm a pussy. That's how I would say it.
Yeah, you were being sarcastic.
I suppose I was.
Being a smartass like Jake Mossberg says, correct?
Yes.
Mocking him,
I wasn't really mocking him.
imitating him,
No.
just repeating what he said in a sarcastic, smartass tone.
I would say agreeing with what he had said, yeah.
And somebody, again, according to your testimony, says, oh, you're a big man.
You're a big man with your knife. That is what they said.
And you respond back, yeah, I am a big man with my knife, correct?
Said, yeah, I got a knife.
Well, didn't you indicate that in your testimony, in your direct examination, you said, yeah, I am a big man with my knife?
I'm not sure.
You're not disagreeing with me, but you may have forgotten from the time that you just testified. Is that correct?
I don't remember. I just said that.
Well, it's important, sir, that we don't just say things here, okay?
I'm not just saying things.
And you claim that at least Mr. Kelly is saying that you're a city punk.
You said something like that, yeah.
And at some point in time, your license plates are seen and they start talking about being from Minnesota. Is that correct?
Yeah, they did.
Okay. And you agreed that you're responding to this.
Yeah,
When they say something, you say something back.
yeah.
And I think that's kind of what all three of your friends are saying. Levi just kept going back and forth with them.
I guess, yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing. When somebody says something to you, you'd repeat it and imitate it back in a sarcastic tone.
I would just agree with what he had said. That's what he said. I wouldn't really imitate
Are you
it.
really telling them that you're just agreeing with them to make nice? You're agreeing with them, and as everybody says, you're making smart-ass comments. Is that fair?
I guess.
Now, at some point in time, you describe how you get in front of Mr. Michael's vehicle, correct?
In front?
To the side. You're right. Withdrawn. Let me restate that. You describe how you get onto the passenger side of Mr. Michael's vehicle, right?
Yes, I was there.
And you do that, do you walk between the car and the truck, or do you walk backwards along the passenger side?
Could you repeat that?
Yeah. Do we have a blank one?
Could we just get that thing up here and I should...
That's what I want to see. Do it blank. Can we grab a blank exhibit from my office? I could be back in 2 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, there's a pointer and a Sharpie. Did you want me to write my name?
No. Mr. Acre-Kendall showing you Exhibit 91. You've been here throughout this trial and seen the same diagram before, is that correct?
That's correct.
Again, why don't we, in case we have you write something on here, I'm going to have you write your name on the bottom of that. You've seen this drill before, but I'm going to have you pick up the laser pointer. The initial altercation, physical altercation, between you and Mr. Leckman, or what the state believes is you and Mr. Leckman, would you point to where that takes place? Where you're standing.
About right there.
Okay? And was your testimony earlier that Stephen Phillips is right next to you?
I believe Stevie was right around there.
So he would have been actually closer to the car.
I think he was, yeah. That was the last time I saw it.
All right? And after that altercation, you pop up and pull the knife, correct?
Correct.
And you say the two gentlemen take a couple of steps back, correct?
Yeah.
And then you kind of move towards the passenger side of Hank Michael's car, correct?
Not right away, but eventually, yes.
Okay, so what happens right away?
Right away, after I pulled the knife,
Yep.
well, they said those comments, and then I replied, and
Let's stop you there. How long does these comments go on?
less than a minute.
Okay. So a minute later, after this physical altercation, where do you head to?
The passenger door.
Yep. So show me the path that you take as you sit here today, how you claim that you got there. You went around the back side of the car and down the passenger side of the car.
Yeah, I circled around it.
When you said circle around it before, I thought you meant to the front of the car. So that's
No, I went around the back.
okay. So you move along the trunk of the car and then down the passenger side of the car.
Yes.
And during that time, is there still more verbal back and forth going on?
Yeah.
Same kind of stuff? Something would be said to you and you would agree with it in your tone?
Yeah.
Now, you don't remember everything that was said.
A lot of it was repeated, so no. I mean,
And at some point in time, you get back by the door of the car. Correct?
which door?
You get to the passenger front door,
Eventually, yeah.
and at this point in time, that door is closed.
Yes.
And you open up the door, is that correct?
Yeah, I opened it.
Now, you said in your direct examination that when you were asked at this point in time, how close is Mr. Kelly? And I think you indicated at your fingertips, is that correct?
About that, yes.
What do you mean by that? I want to clarify.
About far enough away that I could probably brush him with my fingers, maybe.
So to clarify, you mean like an arm's length away?
Yeah, about that.
I didn't know if you meant fingertips, like when you're sitting here. You're talking about an arm's length away Mr. Kelly is.
Yes.
And he stays about that far away from you this whole time, correct?
From which point?
Well, as you're walking back to the point where you begin to open the door.
From one side of the car on the side to the other, yes.
He stays at least an arm's length away from you, correct?
About that, yeah.
You get back to the passenger door and you open it up.
Yes.
And you did that demonstration with your left arm before, is that correct?
Yes.
Because that whole time you've got the knife in your hand.
In my right hand, yes.
And you're able to open the door
Yes.
and you're able to at least sit down somewhat into the car. Is that your testimony?
I was sitting in the car, yes.
You got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You demonstrated that with the chair in the courtroom.
Yes.
And then you make the comment about you're a real badass.
I did say that, yes.
And is that before anybody tries to intervene between the two of you guys?
It was before, yeah.
And is it shortly after you say that Hank Michaels appears?
Well, Mr. Kelly had then flexed in his muscle in my face and said what he had said, and then Hank had come around and tried to intervene, yeah.
Okay, so you sit down in the car, you got your knife, and you say, you're a real badass.
Yeah.
And in response to that, you claim that Mr. Kelly says, yeah, I am, and flexes.
Yeah, he said, you want to feel a real man's muscle.
Okay? And that's when Mr. Michaels tries to intervene.
Yeah.
And we heard testimony from everybody that everybody was standing up at this time. But your testimony is that you were actually seated when that intervention or attempted intervention took place.
I was definitely seated, yes.
And obviously the attempted peacekeeping by Mr. Michaels doesn't work, correct?
Did not work at all, no.
Your testimony is Mr. Kelly kind of brushes him off.
Yes.
And do you say anything about you having a knife at that point again?
At that point, no.
Okay.
I didn't say anything.
There was testimony about at that point, Mr. Kelly says, just get out of here, just leave.
He said, get back over there, you lanky motherfucker.
Okay. And then after Mr. Michaels leaves, doesn't Mr. Kelly tell you guys to just get out of there?
He said, you pussies aren't worth my time, just get out of here.
Just get out of here. And isn't that kind of a repeated theme throughout this night? He's saying, you guys just go, just get out of here?
Yeah.
You indicated in response to that, I believe, was when you said, I think your words were scoffed and shrugged your shoulders.
I didn't shrug my shoulders, but I did kind of scoff at what he had said.
Okay, well, you didn't say you shrugged your shoulders, but you did what you did. Can you demonstrate again what you did? Okay.
So I guess
I wasn't saying you shrugged your shoulders, but when you do what you do, which is scoffing, your shoulders shrug. Fair?
I guess so, yes.
Okay. So
I didn't realize I did that.
all right. And you do that in response to after Mr. Michaels leaves.
And after Mr. Kelly had said what he had said, yes.
What does he say after he leaves?
After Hank had left,
Yes.
he had said that. He had said, you pussies aren't worth my time. Just get out of here.
Just get out of here.
Yeah.
And that's where you scoff and do the shoulder shrug thing. Again, for lack of a better term, kind of being a smartass. Fair?
I guess so. I guess I did it because he had said it so many times, and it was just kind of.
And then your response, again, as you claim you're sitting there with the knife in your hand, you say, we're done now? Correct?
I think I said something along those lines. I said, yeah.
We're done now? And that's when you claim that Mr. Kelly grabs you.
Yeah, he charged me and grabbed me out of the car.
Well, you say charged you, and that's what I can't figure out here. How does he charge you? He's standing right outside the door. Would it take half a step to get to you?
He didn't leisurely walk in and just grab me and say, hey, let's go.
But you said the whole time that you went back to the door, your arm's length away. Isn't that your testimony?
That was before I had opened the door, yes.
Okay. Then you testified that you sat down, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and Mr. Michaels is standing between you two, correct?
On the other side of the door.
Okay. So, what did Mr. Kelly take? Again, according to you, he couldn't have been more than a step or two away.
Well, I said that that after Hank had tried to intervene, that Mr. Kelly had stepped back a couple of steps.
Okay. And then
he had said what he had said.
And then you say what you say.
Said, so we're done here, and then can we go?
And you claim that he charged you.
Yes.
You indicate that there was, at some point, you had one hand behind your head and another hand on your shoulder.
When he was pulling me out of the car, yeah.
And when you get out of the car, you had hands on shoulders?
It wasn't like on his shoulders, but more of his chest area.
Okay. You saw the two demonstrations from Hank Michaels and Jake Mossberg. Do you generally agree with that?
No.
So they saw something, although completely identical to each other, you're disagreeing with that?
I was the one who was grabbed. I remember very clearly.
And you're saying that your hand was more towards Mr. Kelly's chest?
And yes, not on his shoulders.
You got a knife sticking in Mr. Kelly's chest at that time?
No.
Did you drop the knife?
No.
Did you have the knife back in your pocket?
It was sideways in my hand.
Okay. You indicate you got your hands, I think you said one hand on his shoulder and one hand down by his chest.
No, they were both in his chest area.
Both in his chest area. And you got a knife in one of your hands.
Yeah.
You got a knife blade flat against his chest. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you said he had the leverage at that point, correct?
He did pull me out of the car.
And when you get out of the car, again, it's your version that he continued to have this hand on the back of your head?
On my neck, yeah.
And that you fell forward a little bit. Is that what you're testifying?
My upper body went with him because he was pulling on it. And so I guess, yeah, my body fell forward.
Okay. And you said what you could see was his shoes and flip-flops, correct?
His shoes, my flip-flops.
Right. And he doesn't kick you, right? He doesn't kick you.
No.
Doesn't knee you.
No.
Doesn't punch you in the face.
No.
Doesn't start to choke you out.
No.
From the time that you claim you were grabbed, from the time of the stabbing, how many seconds?
I couldn't tell you.
Less than a minute?
Yeah. It was less than 10. It was less than 5, but I mean, it was, I couldn't tell you exactly.
Less than 10, less than 5 what?
Seconds. It just happened quickly. I don't know.
So is it your testimony that from the time you got grabbed by the back of your neck to the time you stabbed Mr. Kelly was less than 5 seconds?
It could have been.
I'm trying to narrow it down here.
I couldn't tell you, like I said before, but it was fairly quick. It was very quick.
It's fairly quick. It was very quick. Was it less than 10 seconds?
Yeah.
You indicated that you were looking at his shoes and your flip-flops, correct?
Yeah.
And that's when you stabbed him.
Yeah.
You know, from even if you believe that vantage point, you know you didn't stab him in the leg.
I didn't know where I had stabbed him.
Well, you're looking right at his legs.
At his shoes.
And you know you didn't stab him in the leg.
I didn't know where I had stabbed him.
His hand on your shoulders, correct?
Me?
Yes.
No, my hands were not on his shoulders at that
He's got his hands on your shoulders, correct?
On my neck and my shoulder, yeah.
So you know you didn't stab him in the arm.
I didn't know where I had stabbed him.
Let's just get this out of the way. You intended to stab him.
I guess, yeah.
You intended to stab him. This wasn't an accident, right?
No.
Okay. You didn't trip into him and accidentally stab him.
No.
You intended to stab him.
Yes.
You said he's bigger than me. He's about 2 inches bigger than you. Is that a fair statement?
I don't know.
About this much taller than you? I'm showing about 2 inches here with my finger.
It didn't look that way, but maybe, I don't know.
Said he's older than you.
He was older than me.
How'd you know that?
By appearance, you can kind of tell.
Because he had facial hair?
I guess so, yeah.
You had facial hair.
He was kind of scrappy.
Okay. You looked a lot older back then than you do right now. Fair statement?
Yeah. I guess.
You indicate that you stab him. He starts to run away. Correct?
He ran away after the house.
And your response at that point is you look at your friends and say, get the fuck in the car.
I didn't say that, no.
What did you say?
We gotta fucking go.
And who are you saying that to?
Just kind of like everyone in general.
And after that, you get in the car and shut the door. Right?
Yeah.
And Stephen Phillips is in the back seat?
I believe he was. Well, he was, but I guess I didn't see him get in there, no.
That's where he was most of the time during the physical altercation, correct?
I'm not sure. I wasn't focused on him.
Fair enough. You know where Mossberg is?
The last time I saw him, he was at the end of his truck.
You don't claim to have a conversation with Mossberg, right?
No.
You announced to everybody that I just stabbed him?
No.
Then how does Mossberg know, according to his testimony, that there was a stabbing?
I'm not sure.
You must have said something.
There was a phone call on the ride home, and that was about it.
But he knows as soon as you're leaving that there's been a stabbing. He testified to that, didn't he?
Well, he could have known by what Mr. Kelly had said. I'm not sure.
Which was what?
Roscoe, we gotta go. He poked me.
And you think by that he would know that you stabbed him?
He could have, yes. You'd have to ask him.
I did, and he said there was discussion that took place outside of the car. But you're disagreeing with that now.
I don't remember any discussion, no.
You're not saying it didn't happen, you just don't recall.
There wasn't, no, I don't.
And does Hank Michaels then put the car in reverse?
Not right away, no.
Okay. Does Ross Leckman get there before the car's put in reverse?
Yes,
Okay. And you claim he's pounding on the window, is that correct?
he was, yeah.
Nobody else saw him pounding on the windows, would that be fair?
It was my window, but I don't know.
Right across from Hank Michaels where he's driving, he doesn't say he saw him pounding on the window, correct? Correct?
He did not say that, no.
Stephen Phillips is in the back seat, kitty corner from where he's standing. He doesn't say anybody's pounding on the window, correct?
He did not say that, no.
You're the only one that said there was a pounding on the window, correct?
That's what I remember.
And then he kicks the rear of the car, correct?
He was kicking and pounding the door, yeah.
And then Hank Michaels kicks her in reverse and backs out of there.
Yeah,
Speeds out of there.
sorta.
Yes or no? These squeal of tires?
I don't think so, no. No, definitely not. Not on a forward drive.
Does Mr. Leckman say anything to you?
He was saying something, but I don't know what he was saying.
Did you stab my friend?
I don't know what he was saying.
Did you have any conversation with him?
No, he was pounding on the door and yelling, but I don't know what he was saying.
You don't say to him, I stabbed him?
No,
So that part of his testimony is just wrong.
I would say so, yeah.
Now, you talk at this point when you guys are leaving. I think you said the general atmosphere is you're so scared, correct?
I was scared, yeah.
And you're so scared mainly at that point because you think somebody might be coming back?
I didn't know what was going to happen.
So Mossberg's so scared that it appears at this point he pulls over and dumps an illegal fish. Is that correct?
I wasn't in that car.
You saw him because he starts out first, correct?
I had saw that he had pulled over. I didn't know what he was doing.
But he makes a point of pulling over and dumping a little fish. It appears, correct?
I just know he pulled over.
And then 3/10 of a mile later, you guys toss dope out the window.
It was Stevie, but
It was Stevie. Stevie acknowledged that, correct?
yes.
Are you telling us today that there's no conversation from the point where you leave the stabbing until you dump the marijuana about what you're going to do with it?
Do with the marijuana?
Yes.
Stevie had said, what should we do with it? And he said, I'm going to dump it.
So Stevie has a conversation with himself?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. Do you say anything?
I didn't say anything about that. No, I didn't care about it.
Okay. Well, you said that. You didn't care about the marijuana, correct?
No, all I cared about was just getting out of there.
Yeah. You seemed to care about the marijuana later on, correct?
That was not what that text message was about.
Okay, let's talk about that text message. You sent a text message the following day to Hank Michaels, correct?
I believe it was the 15th, yeah. I was at work.
Okay. And this was before you know that Mr. Kelly has died, is that correct?
I'm not sure. It could have been before or after.
Well, don't you start out the text by saying, dude, what if the guy dies?
I'm not sure exactly what it said. $13:45, 1:45 p.m. You send a text to Hank Michaels stating, quote, "'Cause what if he died, dude? They would probably search the whole fucking woods," end quote. Does that sound like the text that you sent? I believe I did send that, yeah.
Okay, and so when you start the text by "'cause what if he died, dude," seems to indicate you didn't know at that point, correct?
I guess I didn't know.
All right, let's get that out of the way. They would probably search the whole fucking woods. The Minnesota gopher bag is in the woods, correct?
I guess it was.
Okay. Are you really telling us that you're worried about some manhunt in the woods? Or are you worried about some marijuana being discovered?
I was not worried about the marijuana being discovered, no.
Explain that text.
I meant it as in they would go on like a manhunt and they would not like stop searching for us, like we couldn't hide from this.
Because at that point you were hiding from this.
We weren't hiding, but we didn't tell anybody about it.
You just said because they'd searched the whole woods and we couldn't hide from this. Those were your words.
We were kind of just like lying low and just waiting to see what would happen.
Hoping you wouldn't get caught. That's fair.
I don't know.
And so you throw the term out there because they searched the whole fucking woods, and that's supposed to mean that they'd go on a manhunt.
Pretty much, yeah. Just looking for whatever they could find. I mean, I really wasn't concerned about the marijuana. I couldn't.
It sure sounds like you were.
Oh, okay.
So you guys stop or at least dump the drugs on two separate occasions as you're driving out of the park, correct?
Stevie did, yes.
And you were looking for some advice, correct?
Yeah.
And so the advice you get isn't from 911, it's from calling your dad, correct?
Yeah.
All right. And your words to your dad is, "Dad, I just stabbed someone, what do I do?" Fair statement?
Somewhere along those lines, yeah.
And we've heard what your dad indicated that his response was. I'm assuming you're not disagreeing with your dad?
I don't think so, no.
You agree with your father's testimony yesterday?
Some parts of it, yes.
Well, do you disagree with other parts?
I don't recall them, so I guess I would be disagreeing with him, yeah.
Let me clarify that. You don't agree with some parts of his testimony?
Right, because I don't remember them.
Okay. Then a couple minutes later, there's another call to your father. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
And you're saying that you don't recall the conversation about, did anybody see your license plates?
I don't remember that part, no.
You don't recall the part about your father telling you, did you leave anything behind?
No, I don't remember.
Okay. All right. You're not saying that didn't happen, you're just saying you don't remember.
Right.
Stephen Phillips seems to remember very clearly the part of the conversation about the license plate, right?
That is what he testified.
And Stephen Phillips was right again that you guys were on speakerphone the whole time, correct?
Yeah,
So everybody in that car could hear what was talked about.
that's true.
Now, you indicated you didn't know the route or the roads, and I'm not trying to trick you here, but you didn't know the roads back home, okay? Is that right?
Past 95, I don't know the specific names, no.
Okay, if I was to describe, if I was to tell you Highway 8 goes down a big hill going into Taylor's Falls, does that make sense in your mind?
I know that road, and if it's Highway 8, it's Highway 8.
All right, so that we can agree on that there's a road going down a hill into Taylor's Falls.
Right.
And coming out of the interstate park, you got to get on that road to get into Taylor's Falls.
Yeah.
To cross the river.
Bridge and up the hill.
All right, so you're exiting the park. Have you had the two conversations with your father?
One of them.
Okay, you haven't had the second conversation with your father yet.
No.
Okay, and you're driving down the hill in Taylor's Falls, or into Taylor's Falls.
Yeah.
And you're telling us here that there's no conversation about that cop car right at the bottom of the hill.
I don't remember one, no.
Again, you're not saying it didn't happen, you just don't remember that conversation? Is that fair?
I was kind of zoning out, so.
So if the other three, or any of those other three indicated there was a conversation, you're not disputing that, you're just indicating you're zoned out.
I wasn't a part of it, so yeah.
And then you're not disputing the fact that you see a squad, a trooper with full lights and siren on the way back on 95.
I do remember that, yes.
And do you remember a second conversation about where you guys thought that car was, or that squad was going to?
No.
You don't remember the conversation talking about, I bet that's going back to the interstate park?
No, I think I remember hearing someone say, oh shit, or something like that, but I don't remember an actual conversation about it.
And again, the oh shit comment is because you guys don't want to deal with the cops that night.
That's not true, no.
During the car ride home, Jacob Mossberg calls.
Yeah.
And I think your exact words were, he said, what the fuck just happened? Were those his exact words?
I think he said what just happened or something like that, yeah.
Okay. And that's where you tell him what happened.
There was I said I had stabbed him, yeah.
I mean, you have a conversation with him. This is your friend. This is one of your three best friends.
It wasn't really a long conversation, but there was a short one.
Okay. And I'm betting he's asking you questions because that'd be human nature, right?
There was a question about where he had gotten stabbed, yeah.
Okay. And I bet there's a conversation about how it happened.
No, I don't think so.
There's certainly comments about your version of how you got pulled out of the car, correct?
Not at that time, no.
There's certainly conversations about this initial confrontation, correct?
Which one?
The initial physical confrontation.
I don't think so, no.
Because Hank Michaels says you told him about it. He doesn't even see it, but you tell him about that first confrontation.
I told a summary in the car when I was calling my dad, so yeah.
All right, that's what I'm trying to get at. When you called your dad, but you didn't give the same summary to Jake Mossberg?
No, I don't think I did, because he was there.
Okay. All right. So is it the second conversation then on the way home that you have a longer conversation with your dad
No, the second one was shorter.
than the first conversation?
Yeah.
So it's the first conversation, you give him a summary about what happened,
Yes.
including the first physical altercation?
Yes, the first one was pretty much a complete summary of what had happened. I told him that these two guys had showed up. There was a fight and he pulled me out of a car and I had stabbed someone.
And you must have given him the whole background about the first confrontation as well?
The verbal one?
No, the first physical confrontation with Mr. Leckman.
I think I did, yeah.
Because Hank Michaels knows all about this and he testified I never saw it.
Right.
Okay, so you're able to give your version of what happened to your dad. You give a smaller version of what happened to Jake Mossberg, correct?
No.
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 What do you talk to Jake Mossberg about?
Where he had gotten stabbed.
You indicate that it's all quiet on the ride home, is that correct?
That is what I remember.
Would you disagree with me that it's about a 45-minute drive from the Interstate Park to Stephen Phillips' house?
No, more or less.
Okay, and the three of you aren't going, what happened here, what happened here? There's just no conversation?
No, it was dead silent from what I remember. Outside of the park.
Just stop talking about this stabbing that you were involved in.
Yeah.
And you turn on some music?
That is what they said, but I don't remember doing that. But like I said, I was kind of zoning out the whole time.
Zoning out, so you turn on some tunes.
I don't remember doing that, but that's what they testified to.
Now you get back to Stephen Phillips' house. And Mossberg arrives, correct?
Yeah.
He's right behind you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the four of you are all at Stephen Phillips' house, correct?
Yeah.
And you guys meet outside of the house.
We all parked in the driveway, yeah.
And you have a discussion or a meeting outside the house.
No, not really.
Well, are you disputing the fact that you guys agreed that you were all going to meet up at Stephen's house?
When?
When you left the park.
Could you repeat the question?
When you fled the scene of this stabbing, didn't you call Jake Mossberg and tell him everybody to meet at Stephen's house?
No, Jake Mossberg called us.
Okay.
But I think we had said that we were going to Stevie's and he said he was going to follow.
Meet at Stevie's.
Yeah.
You get to Stephen's house. Yes.
Yeah?
You all are four are there, correct?
Yeah.
You have this meeting. The four of you.
No.
Okay, maybe I'm not. You talk amongst yourselves, the four of you.
No, we all didn't gather around in a circle and talk, no.
Tell me how it happens.
I was sitting in the car and...
Ever get out of the car?
I was sitting in the car and eventually I did get out. And once I got out, Hank had asked me, "Did you grab the knife?" And I said, "Yeah, I got it." And then I just continued to walk over to my car. And then Mossberg was in his truck and he said, "Everything's going to be okay." And I kind of just looked at him, got in my car and drove home.
So you're saying that your lone communication at Stephen Phillips' house is those two things?
Yeah.
You don't have a discussion about all of you keeping quiet?
No.
So when everybody else says there was an agreement that we were going to lay low and keep quiet, you're not a part of that?
Those three might have had that conversation, but I just wanted to go home.
Were you not a part of that?
No.
So you never had a discussion about ditching the knife?
Not that I remember, no.
Well, which is it? Do you remember these conversations or just don't remember these conversations?
I don't remember it happening, no.
So if, again, you're not necessarily disagreeing what was said between your three friends, you just may not remember.
They testified to what they testified to.
And you're not saying that they're not telling the truth, as you indicated earlier.
They could be, but I wasn't there for that.
And they have no reason not to tell the truth. Isn't that what you said?
Right.
Now, you've heard Hank Michaels, Stephen Phillips both indicate that later that night you got on Xbox with them.
I didn't get on Xbox that night.
You're, again, saying that that just didn't happen and they're wrong.
I think they're confusing it with the following night.
They're wrong.
I guess so, yes.
And that when Jacob Jaffe joined this Xbox chat, that didn't happen that night.
I believe I remember hearing Stevie said that initially it was Jacob Jaffe, and then you had said that it was me, and then Stevie had changed his answer.
Well, I think he said he included you, but that Jacob Jaffe also was included in it because Jacob Jaffe was asking questions about what happened at the stabbing, correct?
I wasn't in that chat. There was nothing. When I was on Xbox with them, there was no conversation of that.
No conversation at all about the stabbing?
No.
And your version is that this happens the night after?
Yeah.
And that Jacob Jaffe isn't even a part of this?
He could have been in there that night, but I wasn't sure. I'm not sure.
And so it's your version, again, as you sit here today, is that you don't play Xbox on the night of the stabbing?
No.
Despite what Stephen and Hank have said, correct?
I think it was just Stevie, but yes.
Hank said he played Xbox with you too that night.
I don't remember him saying that, but...
Okay. But instead, you're saying you did play Xbox the following night with Hank, Stephen, and Jacob Jaffe.
Maybe Jacob Jaffe, yes.
Maybe Jacob Jaffe. Certainly with Stephen and Hank.
Yeah.
And you're, again, on these headphones with the microphone, so it's just like talking on the phone as you're playing this game.
Sort of, yeah.
Playing Call of Duty.
I wasn't playing Call of Duty, but I was playing Xbox.
Well, again, they're wrong about what you were playing?
They were playing that, but I wasn't playing with them.
Oh, so you can be in a chat room and playing a different...
Right. Well, I get that.
All right. So you can be on the chat room and be playing a different game than they're playing.
Right.
So is it your testimony, they're playing Call of Duty, what are you playing? You remember?
I was playing some racing game.
All right. And during this conversation, I'll strike that, you haven't had any conversations with Hank and Stephen since the stabbing, correct? Or excuse me, strike that. You haven't had any conversations with Hank Michaels and Stephen Phillips since you left Stephen Phillips' house?
No, that's not true.
Okay, when did you talk to him again?
The following night on Xbox.
No, yeah, I'm getting there. Okay, so let me back up. From the time that you left Stephen Phillips' house to the time you got an Xbox, you hadn't had any conversations with Stephen Phillips or Hank Michaels?
I had texted Hank and he called me while I was at work. Other than that, no.
Okay, and so you have a conversation with Hank Michaels during the day?
Yeah.
While you're at work?
Yeah.
How long does that phone conversation last?
It was like a minute or two.
Talk about the stabbing?
Hank had just called me and told me that he had passed away.
So you're saying that when you play Xbox later that night, you know that Mr. Kelly has passed away?
Well, yeah, because obviously Mr. Gerhardt and Mr. Bowker and DeLifson had showed up at my house.
I'm asking, just so we got this timeline. So you're on this chat room with these friends of yours, and you know that Mr. Kelly's passed away?
Yes.
And it's your testimony as you sit here today. You guys don't talk about that at all.
No, we didn't.
You, Stephen, and Hank, two of your best friends, just found out that the guy that you stabbed has died, and you don't talk about that at all.
No.
Okay. While you're at work the following day after the stabbing, you get a call from Hank. That's the one we're talking about right now.
Yep.
And that's when he says to you, he tells you that he knows that Mr. Kelly has passed away.
He had told me that his brother had told him.
Okay? And he says, we're all going to turn ourselves in.
I'm not sure if he said that or not.
He says, we're all going to go to the lawyer's office and we're going to turn ourselves in.
I'm not sure.
You're not sure because you don't remember?
I just remember him telling me that he had passed away.
Well, you're certainly clear of what Hank Michaels has testified to, correct?
Yeah.
And are you disagreeing with that, or are you thinking you just might not remember that part of the conversation?
I definitely don't remember that.
Okay.
I
So
think,
it's possible that it happened, you just don't remember?
yeah, I think I was,
And he indicated that he just didn't think it was your priority to turn yourselves in at that point, correct?
it might have seemed that way.
And you just stayed at work the rest of that, or continued to work at least, until you were notified by authorities later that day.
Yeah.
And when you were asked what you thought when you were told that by Hank, what you were thinking, do you remember what your response was?
I can't tell you how I felt about it.
Well, you were asked that.
Well, that's exactly what I said. I can't tell you how I was feeling. I was
Did you respond to that question? And I wrote it down. Did you respond to that question? Fuck, I just killed someone? That was what you thought.
That is what I thought, but
No, I'm just asking. That's what you thought.
yeah,
Okay? And that's the words that you used to describe what you were thinking.
yeah.
On the way back from where your job site was, you get a call from Maverick Nelson.
I think so, yeah. Yeah,
And Maverick Nelson asks you if you were involved in that fight, correct?
yeah,
And you lied to him.
yeah.
And you picked up that call, and then you get a second call from Investigator Gerhardt. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You don't answer that call.
Well, I put my phone down.
Didn't ring?
No, it was on silent because when I'm working, I have it on silent.
Well, weren't you on a ride back?
Yeah,
But you knew that Maverick Nelson called, even though the phone was on silent?
I was using my phone when he had called.
Going to have Investigator Gerhardt show you Exhibit 37. You recognize Exhibit 37?
That's my pocket knife.
Okay. Describe it as a pocket knife. Would you Would you open that blade, Investigator Gerhardt? And that's the button that you had to push there to make that blade come to life, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you take that knife out of your pocket, it's in that folded up motion, correct? Folded up condition.
Yeah.
And then you push that button and pop the knife out.
Yes.
That, you know, how long have you had that knife?
Since I worked at the tree farm, so about 5 years.
Okay. And do you know what kind of knife that is?
Benchmade?
Benchmade, a Leishowitz knife. Do you know anything about that?
No.
Okay. You know what that knife is called, a striker knife? Do you know that?
No.
Do you know what it retails for?
I think about $100-something.
Would it surprise you that at Gander Mountain it's going for $260 right now?
No.
That doesn't surprise you?
No. It's a Benchmade. It's a pretty high quality knife.
That's about as high a quality knife as they come, correct? It's got a special type of tip on it. Do you have any information about that? What type of tip that is?
If I recall right, I think it's called a tapered or something.
Tonto blade, have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay. Do you have any other information about knives? Do you have any knowledge about knives?
I'm no knife expert, no.
And you indicate that you're not aware of a discussion about ditching Exhibit 37.
All I remember is Hank asking me if I had it, and I said yeah.
So you may or may not have been part of that conversation, you just kind of don't remember.
I don't remember it, no.
Okay.
I don't recall it.
And you hung on to the knife, correct?
Yeah.
And was that because that's a special knife to you?
No, it was more because of I knew what had happened, and I knew something was going to happen out of it.
You knew it was serious.
I knew I had stabbed someone.
You knew it, I mean, you knew it was serious enough you were going to hang on to that knife, correct? Besides the fact this is a awesome knife, you're hanging on to that because you know something bad happened.
It was obviously serious, but I didn't know that it was this serious, no.
Okay? And when you stabbed Mr. Kelly, show me, stand up right now, please. Okay?
Could Investigator Gerhardt sit down?
Yes, please.
Step out from around the side. You got the knife in your right hand, correct? Okay? Show me the motion you make when you stab Mr. Kelly.
I was down like this, and I just went like this.
So you know you didn't stab him in the leg. You just showed the jury a motion of how you stabbed him, correct?
I guess if I thought about it.
You can sit back down. You've had plenty of time to think about this, Mr. Acre-Kendall, correct? 8
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
You knew you didn't stab him in the leg.
I didn't know where I had stabbed him.
You knew the next day that death was an absolute possibility, correct?
No.
I'll repeat your text one more time to Hank Michaels. I'm not trying to belabor this point. You started out by saying, "'Cause what if the dude died?"
Well, I guess I was thinking the worst, yes.
Yeah. So let's try my question again. The very next day, you knew that death was a possibility, correct?
I suppose it could have been, yeah.
You knew the night it happened that death was a possibility, correct?
I didn't know I had stabbed him, so...
You're obviously worried about him dying. True?
I was worried that I had stabbed him.
And so, that night, when you get home, you're
Right?
you didn't even sleep till the next morning, correct?
Yeah.
Did you sleep at all before you went to work the next day?
No, I don't think so.
You've got a Facebook account, correct?
Yeah.
Get on that Facebook account at 8:30 the next morning after you've stabbed Mr. Kelly, correct?
I'm not sure. I might have been.
Okay. The next morning, 8:30 a.m., you post on your Facebook account, "These nuts," the video. Isn't that correct?
I might have. I'm not sure.
Well, let me refresh your memory.
Dan?
Take a break, good?
Certainly. Please be seated.
We could just have a brief discussion, Your Honor.
Sure, we're off the record.
It only lasts about 3 seconds. I'll show you exactly what it is. I just wanted to get confused and sure he comes up here. I just wanted to check off where he likes him. And I think at some point in time there at the time. Alright. Yes. Alright. And that's where it also shows that those guys are, yeah.
Might as well take a break, guys. It's been 2 hours.
Okay. 10 minutes, Your Honor?
10 minutes, please.
Maybe we'll just talk to the investigator. So you can answer the question. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Can we ask the investigator a question?
Here's the guy to ask.
I've
recently read the statute.